She knelt, on bare concrete, outside the same mansion she once ruled. Her nails, broken. Her breath, shallow, in her trembling hands, a faded wedding photo of a man she swore she'd never love. But lost anyway, inside, laughter echoed, his laughter, deep, healed, untouchable. He was holding another woman now, the same woman she once tore from his arms, but as the gates opened, and she lifted her eyes to meet his, there was no hatred in them, just one haunting question that crushed her harder than betrayal ever could: would you still have chosen me? If love couldn't be bought. Please subscribe to this channel to support us. It's free. Thank you. Ella never liked losing. Not bets, not boys, and certainly not control. She was born into wealth, raised by a man who believed money could fix anything. When she and her clique, daughters of billionaires, saw Kara walking down the street that breezy Lagos evening, time slowed. His striking features made the world go quiet. Tall, lean but muscled like a sculpture, his jawline so sharp it could cut pride itself, and those warm brown eyes that refused to beg for attention. Who is he? Sarah had whispered like a spell. But it was Dorcas who knew the truth. Kara was a nobody, financially speaking. A struggling tech hopeful who lost his family in a ghastly accident and never recovered. Yet, Dorcas warned them, he wasn't the begging type. He's poor and proud, she said. Strict too. He doesn't talk to anyone but Tola, his fiancée. Loyal to the core. And real. But Ella smirked. Her pride already bruised by his refusal to notice her. There's nothing money can't buy, she said. Not even love. That night, the girls made a bet. Could Ella win over the boy with the broken past? Could she make him hers, just to prove that money and charm always win? Fueled by arrogance, Ella went deeper than anyone expected. She didn't just approach him. She destroyed what he valued most. With quiet ruthlessness, she hired some boys to tail Tola, Kara's only light in a dark world. She orchestrated a scene so vile, so convincing, that when Kara walked into Tola's apartment and found her lying naked between two strangers, his world collapsed again. This time, even harder. The girl who stood by him when the world vanished, gone. His soul screamed louder than his mouth ever could. Kara wandered the streets, stumbling like a ghost, until a sleek black car pulled up beside him. Ella rolled down her window and asked with mock empathy, "Why is a grown man crying in public?" That was how she took him home. Not by magic. But by catching him at his lowest, and offering comfort soaked in poison. Ella played her role perfectly. She was sweet, attentive, always available when Kara needed a listening ear or a quiet place to sit in silence. She never rushed him, never asked questions that dug too deep. She let him unravel slowly, and in that unraveling, she wrapped herself around the empty spaces Tola left behind. Kara had no one else, no family, no stability, no sense of identity. So when Ella stepped in, he didn't question her presence. It was survival disguised as friendship. But Ella wanted more. One evening, she stood before him in a silk robe, and asked, "Kara, am I not beautiful enough?" She asked softly, "Why didn't want to kiss me? You want to marry me?" Kara looked at her with haunted eyes. "It's not that," he said. "You're just not my class. And I can't marry someone I can't take care of." His honesty stung, but it was a glimpse into his character. He was still the same man Dorcas described, genuine, proud, refusing to live off another's wealth. But Ella leaned in, brushing his knuckles with hers, and kissed him. "What if it's not about what you can give me?" she whispered. "What if it's about how we make each other feel?" Kara didn't answer immediately. But in the silence, something began to shift. In the weeks that followed, Kara fell, not all at once, but piece by piece. He began to smile again, laugh a little, dream a little. And eventually, he asked Ella to be his wife. It should have been the fairy tale ending, the broken boy choosing the girl who stayed. But behind Ella's soft smile was a smirk only her friends would recognize. The day after the wedding, she returned to the private group chat she shared with Sarah, Dorcas, and the others, dropped a picture of her ringed hand, and wrote, "Told y'all I could get him." Laughter erupted in that chat, except from Dorcas. Sarah, ever sharp-tongued, replied, "Congrats on winning the bet. Too bad you married a broke man." She collected her winnings from the bet. Dorcas sighed. "Kara. He's a real man. His kind of love is rare. Hold on to him dearly, Ella." But Ella didn't listen to her. Kara is now her husband, a possession, not a partner. Sarah mockery echoed in Ella's head louder than any vow she'd spoken at the altar. It didn't take long for the mockery to turn into poison. That night, as Kara washed dishes in the house she once ruled alone, Ella sat on the couch, glass of wine in hand, thinking, not about love, but about all the billionaire heirs who once begged to date her. She had won the challenge, but lost her class. And deep inside, her resentment began to rise. It began subtly. A tone shift. A delayed answer. A rolled eye. Then one morning, Ella fired the entire domestic staff, gardeners, maids, chef, even the gatekeeper. When Kara asked why, she shrugged. "Why should I pay strangers when I have a husband?" From that day, Kara became the staff. He cooked, cleaned, washed her car, mowed the lawn. She made him wear an apron embroidered with my queen's favorite toy. And he wore it. Willingly. Not because he liked it, but because love, to him, meant sacrifice. He told himself she was just adjusting, or maybe struggling with something unseen. But the truth was simpler. Ella was testing the limits of power. Each humiliation was a push to see how far he would go before breaking. But Kara never snapped. He did everything with care, with gentleness. When she threw tantrums, he calmed her. When she brought friends over and mocked him in their presence, he smiled and served them tea. Ella was trying to provoke him into being a monster. But he refused to become one. And that only made her angrier. Soon, she stopped coming home. Club nights turned into whole weekends away. She flirted with exes in front of Kara and once, even brought a man into the house while Kara was scrubbing the kitchen floor. That man, drunk and loud, demanded Kara cook for them. When Kara refused, he was slapped. Something snapped. Kara, the man who had swallowed pride, who had bent over backwards for love, beat the living daylights out of him. Bloodied and humiliated, the man fled. Ella, furious, called Kara a stray she bought off the street. She threw his things outside. "I paid for you with my money, and now you're useless to me," she spat. And just like that, he was back on the streets. But this time, there was no emptiness in his chest, only clarity. As he walked, he found himself standing in front of a familiar gate. Tola's gate. The very woman he once loved. And he was standing there, eyes swollen from crying, holding a note she'd written to him years ago. "Kara, please listen. That day, I was set up. It wasn't real. It was Ella." And for the first time in a long while, Kara felt something stir in him again, hope. The reunion was slow. Kara didn't rush into forgiveness. He wanted answers. And Tola gave them, all of them. She had known something was off the moment the scene unfolded. Strangers in her bed, her drink laced. But by the time she woke, Kara was gone, and his number unreachable. For months, she tried to reach him, searched shelters, hospitals, even prisons, anywhere he might be. But Ella had moved him far away into her own world, and Tola had lost him to silence. Now, face to face, there were no dramatic embraces. Just slow healing, long conversations, and shared understanding of how betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes it's quiet. Strategic. woven with a smile. Kara, living with Tola now, began rebuilding, not just their relationship, but his life. She believed in him still. Believed he was meant for more than serving someone else's ego. With her encouragement, he enrolled in online tech courses. She even paid for the first 3 months, using her salary as a writer who recently landed 4 lucrative contracts. Kara flourished fast. He learned coding, design, cybersecurity, and clients began to roll in. But destiny had one final twist. During a Zoom meeting with a wealthy client, the man paused mid-call and said, "Your name is Kara Abasanya." When Kara confirmed, the man said, "Wait, I know your father's lawyer. He was kidnapped years ago before he could hand over your inheritance." What followed unraveled everything Kara thought was lost. Police traced the lawyer's location and rescued him. The man, emaciated but alive, confirmed Kara's identity and opened files that had been buried for years. Kara's parents hadn't just been rich. They were billionaires, with companies, lands, properties, all locked up after their death under suspicious management. Now, it was all returned, to their only son. The street boy. The humble husband. The man Ella discarded like trash. Kara didn't scream in joy. He didn't throw a party. He simply held Tola's hand and said, "Let's start again. For real this time." And they did. Meanwhile, Ella, oblivious to the reversal of fates, was living in a delusion. After throwing Kara out, she introduced one of her bully boyfriends to her father, hoping for a lavish engagement announcement. But when she said, "Daddy, meet my buddy," the man snapped. "Buddy? I'm your man." The argument escalated. Her father, already stressed from a massive business loan he'd taken, clutched his chest and collapsed while trying to salvage the argument. It was a heart attack. He died instantly. Ella was devastated. But the storm was just beginning. Her father had invested heavily into a risky international deal. Though it eventually succeeded, but his greedy partners siphoned all the profits and vanished when they heard the news of his death. Ella, not aware of the loan, defaulted on the loan. The banks came. Within weeks, everything was gone: cars, houses, assets. Her so-called boyfriend vanished too. Her friends? Silent. Even Sarah and Dorcas stopped replying her messages and calls. One day, dragging her suitcase out of their seized mansion, Ella stood on the same driveway she had once kicked Kara out from. Then, 2 black SUVs pulled up. The gates opened. Kara stepped out, hand in hand with Tola. They were the new owners, buyers of her father's lost estate. She froze. Their eyes met. He didn't smirk. He didn't speak. But his presence said everything. "You reap what you sow." She dropped to her knees, holding a single item, her wedding photo. She looked up at him, her voice broken. "Would you still have chosen me? If love couldn't be bought?" But Kara said nothing. He simply walked past her, the woman he truly loved at his side. Behind him, a life built not by wealth, but by truth. Ahead of her, only silence, and a question she'd never be able to stop asking. Ella tried to forget the way Kara had looked at her that day, not with anger, not even pity, but with something colder. Indifference. It was worse than hate. Hate meant you still mattered. But indifference? It meant you didn't even register anymore. She spent that night sleeping on a friend's couch, but friends grew scarce quickly when your father's name no longer opened doors. Soon, she found herself wandering Lagos in search of odd jobs. The same city where she once hosted exclusive brunches and champagne rooftop parties now saw her walking barefoot past vendors who didn't recognize her anymore. She applied for secretary work, rejected. Tried to model, too old. Tried hospitality, too rude. With every door slammed shut, the weight of her past arrogance pressed tighter around her chest, and then, the real breaking point came, one Sunday morning, she found herself standing outside a community kitchen. A long line of mothers, beggars, and street boys waited for bowls of rice and egusi. She stood there, unsure whether to walk away or join them. Just as she turned, a small voice called out, "Madam Ella." She froze. It was Kayamika. Her former housekeeper's daughter, the same one she'd fired without compensation. The girl, now volunteering at the shelter, ran over. "Auntie. You want food? Come, come." Ella wanted to run, to lie, to pretend she was just lost. But her body didn't move. She sat under the tent. A stainless steel plate was placed in her hands. And for the first time in her life, she whispered, "Thank you." But it didn't feel like gratitude. It felt like defeat. After the meal, Kayamika sat beside her, hesitant. "Auntie Ella," she said gently, "do you remember what you told my mum when you fired her?" Ella didn't reply. She didn't have to. "You said, I don't owe poor people explanations." The words hung in the air. Then Kayamika smiled, not cruelly, but with sincerity. "It's okay. I forgave you a long time ago. Maybe you just needed to fall to understand what standing really means." Ella burst into tears, not the graceful, silent kind, but ugly sobs that cracked her chest. That night, Kayamika took her to a women's shelter, where she was given a small room and a chance to volunteer. No money, no power, just purpose. And slowly, Ella began to understand what Kara had tried to live all along: love cannot be bought. Respect cannot be commanded. And a good heart cannot be borrowed. Across town, Kara and Tola had settled into a new rhythm. Their tech startup, Oasis Tech, was thriving, employing former street kids and training them for the digital economy. Kara insisted on hiring from the same neighborhoods he once slept in, paying livable wages and building affordable housing on the side. Each time he stepped into the office, he carried a quiet strength, the kind forged in fire. Sometimes, the people who break us are just mirrors showing us we are meant for more. Let me know your thoughts about the story in the comments section, like and share, turn on your notification bell, and subscribe to this channel. Thank you.